This individual's story of triumph to tragedy truly, truly warms my heart. Boys and girls, sit down for a few minutes and let your old Uncle Nick Fury talk to you for just a few minutes. Now, this story right here, this woman here, I believe her name is Kate Mulvey, the person that wrote this particular piece. She had a great life. She made a living off of flaunting her education and employment, being condescending and looking down on men, and having the independent life that she always wanted, that she was probably taught by her mom to do and things like that. And growing up in society where the women's first movement was coming up and becoming more and more of importance and promoted in the world and in the United States of America.
I know the power of patriarchy.
And it was great for her, right? She probably did everything she wanted to do as an individual. But of course, everything comes with a side effect, right? There's no absolutes in this life, right? There's trade-offs, there's compromises and things of that nature. Well, this woman right here, which I'm going to read to you here in a few moments, her trade-off for living an independent lifestyle, for having all of the education, all of the accolades, the employment, being able to flaunt and brag about all these things she did in her life. The flip side of that was being alone, unmarried, and childless at 63.
What happened? Where did all the men go?
As you can see here from the title, I regret belittling men. At 63, I've ended up alone. I love it. I love it. It brings it warms my cold heart, ladies and gentlemen. So let me read this to you. All right, please follow me if you will. Let's read this. Let's read this and hear the regret that she has for the life that she chose to live. All right, let's go. A few years ago, I went to Italy with my then boyfriend, James. As we sat tucking into a plate of frutti di mare at a seaside restaurant, I struck up a conversation with the waiter in Italian. This might be in a foreign country, I guess. Well, you know what? Let me back up. She says, I always imagined I would end up married with two wonderful children and living in a house in a countryside. I have paid a hefty price for my so-called liberation.
Message.
Thank you, God. Thank you, God. I love it. I love it. Okay. Kate has had a successful career as a writer and broadcaster, but regrets never having children or being married. Okay. We are now caught up. While I was enjoying myself, James sat glummy and fiddled awkwardly with his phone. Back in the hotel room, he asked why I had ignored him. By speaking in a language that he didn't understand, he said I had managed to make him feel small. I guess she knows multiple languages, and so she was talking in a dialect that he could not understand, trying to make him feel stupid, I guess. And so she confronts him about this. Let's see what she had to say. She said, I could see his point. I spent quite a while chatting away, oblivious to how he must be feeling. I then went on to joke that as the Italian speaker, I would order for us. After all, he didn't know what osso buco meant. I was showing off. Of course she was showing off. But men don't take that lightly, all right? You're flaunting your education, of course, but you're with the guy that's probably speaking American. He doesn't understand you. Why would you do that? At least not for a long period of time, all right? That is making him feel small for good reason. It wasn't the first time something like this had happened to me. I have always taken the driver's seat, been determined to get the last word, and was too busy with books to master the art of charm. Let me read that one more time. I've always taken the driver's seat, been determined to get the last word, and was too busy with books to master the art of charm. Now, you heard a lot of men say that One thing that women never learn, they never learn game themselves, right? Because they never had to. So, being flirtatious with the man, being nice to him, and kind of stroking his ego in a way that is lighthearted. They don't learn that, especially a woman like this, goal-oriented, career-oriented. She never learned how to be feminine with a man, as you can see. I am convinced that the reason I'm still booking a table for one at the age of 63 instead of having settled down with a significant other is because, like so many women of my generation, feminism has ruined my love life. Again, God is good. Indeed, He is. Instead of empowering us, those ideals of the second wave feminists made us believe marriage and domesticacy were to be avoided like the plague, and that men were competition rather than partners. Yes. Made us believe marriage and domesticacy, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, were to be avoided like the plague, and men were competition rather than partners. I might have a successful career as a writer and broadcaster, but I have never had children or been married, and my longest relationship lasted 8 years. I regret this. I had always imagined I would end up married with 2 wonderful children and living in a house in the countryside. I have paid a hefty price for my so-called liberation. Yes, you did, baby.
Nick, you're
At
stupid.
63, yes, I am. I was 17 and a pupil at Goldfin and Latimer, one of Britain's most academic institutions, when I was introduced to the women's liberation movement.
Whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
It offered such hope and excitement, and we spent our lunch breaks soaking up the feminist mantras of Germaine Greer and Betty Friedan. Act like men, they cried as they burnt their bras and demolished housework and the family. Yes. The women's liberation movement when she was 17 years old.
Enemy spotted.
They had her brain messed up at a prime time in her life when she should be not only looking for, to blossom in her career, but also looking to the future of companionship. But instead, at 63, yes, indeed. By the time I was 25, clutching a degree in French and Italian, I was a bright, confident feminist, keen to flex her intellectual muscles and to never let a man get the last word. I read, fill in the blank right there because I can't pronounce that, for fun, and my bedside table has always buckled beneath the weight of substantial, intellectually challenging books. At first, men loved my wit and intelligence. Quote, "You're such a breath of fresh air, and I love talking to you. You're the first woman I met who stimulates me," they'd thrill. Again, in the beginning, and I can speak for myself, in the beginning, it feels, it's great to see a woman that's not a complete airhead. So they would say things like this, right? That, you're a breath of fresh air, and it's great that there's a woman that actually has conversation and she's not just talking about makeup and hair and stuff like that, right? Which is cool in the beginning. But a woman like this doesn't know where the line is, okay? So she doesn't know where the, stop talking about my brain and start talking about my body or some other stuff, when we're going to do the no pants dance. See, she doesn't understand the line there because men eventually will get tired of that. But because she didn't learn charm, right? This is all she knows is her intellectualism, her intelligence, her accomplishments. This is all she knows. And so that is all she's going to bring to the proverbial table, as you can see. All right, let's continue. That was until I had lectured them for the umpteenth time on the virtues of modernism. Quote, "You'll never win an argument against Kate," one man said as he watched me outsmart yet another potential lover. Subtext, don't bother. And see, essentially, because again, you're always picking fights intellectually, you're always arguing with men, stuff like that. Eventually they'll check out and they'll leave you alone. You'll be the leper of, whatever college, whatever household you're in. People just won't talk to you. How these women talking about don't approach, blah, blah. This woman probably experiences firsthand because she got a reputation of being, verbally, mentally combative. And so now nobody will mess with you, right? And so your circle of companionship is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Men have called me intimidating, scary, and opinionated. Now I see that not only was I trying to prove I was their intellectual equal or superior, I was treating every encounter with a man like he was my adversary.
Message.
Enemy spotted.
Like he was your enemy.
Enemy spotted.
Intimidated. Now, again, when men say you're intimidating, it's not because they actually find you like scary or, like you're some type of towering figure that we can't, best. But intimidating means you're overbearing. You talk too much. When we talk to you, we always have to be on guard mentally, you know what I'm saying, or emotionally that something's going to happen, that you're going to be triggering somehow. That is intimidating. And of course, scary and opinionated speaks for itself. If a date brought me a bouquet of flowers instead of smiling and putting them in a vase of water, I would bite their head off. Quote, "You can't buy me some nice olive oil or balsamic vinegar, I said with an eye roll to one hapless suitor as he stood wilting faster than a fragrant offering he held in his hand. The fragrant offering he held in his hand. He had bothered to think about making me happy, and I crushed him for it. Instead of complimenting him on doing something nice for you, you insulted him and you talked down on his gift." Yep. I placed so much importance on finding a strong man who could match me that I forgot men are people with feelings. Instead, I forgot I had feelings and hid my softness. Now I see that I longed to be loved, but was too scared to be vulnerable. I was using my sharp mind to protect my all too soft heart against yet further rejection. So instead of being soft, you hid that with the hard exterior, but you made that exterior so hard that nobody could penetrate it. And now, again, you made a name for yourself. Now you've been stereotyped as being the biche. Okay? Nobody wants to talk to you because, again, you talk too much, opinionated, combative, intimidating, all those words, right? So finding a strong man, nobody wants to be strong for. Men want to be strong, but they don't want to have to be strong against their woman. You understand what I'm saying? And so with her, you not only had to be strong outside the door, but you had to be strong inside the door, which we all know how that ends up for most men. We just walk away.
Message.
Another thing I regret deeply is my tally of one night stands when I was younger. Woo! Yes, sir. Yes, sir. See, let's go back. Let's go back. Because where is it? At 17, where it was 17, the women's liberation movement. See, not only did that liberate them as far as their education and their employment and their finances, but they also liberated what, ladies and gentlemen? Their sexuality. And so now she's been ran through while at the same time being afraid of rejection. And now she will be rejected probably for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, at the simultaneously having a body count probably higher than the morgue. Indeed. I distinctly remember thinking it would be uncool to say no to the men I met at parties or dated, but I struggled to enjoy it. Okay, now we get to play the victim card here. There was always a disconnect. This was abundantly clear the morning after. As I lay there waiting for a sign of affection, he would be singing the triumphant I Had Her song in the shower. A quick cheerio, and he was gone. Because the way you probably treat them as well, because we can't act like this was like a one-sided thing. Everybody on campus, everybody that was around you knew you was a bitch. So, hey, you know what? I got her. Now, this is like, it is really a conquest. I could say I had the honorary, opinionated woman. I got her. It would be uncool to say no. How? If you were so empowered, why would you think it would be uncool to say no? You should be empowered to say no to a man, right? So we would have more women's first virgins out there if you felt the other way. I mean, let's just keep it real. You saw these guys and you liked them, but you yourself didn't want a relationship with them. But why? Because you didn't want to be soft. You didn't want to be in a relationship. And so you yourself did this. While I pretended to enjoy, I felt uncomfortable about sex so early on. I felt empty and used. Again, that's your fault. My generation of women were encouraged to have sex like a man. In other words, have casual sex, but it backfired. Fast forward to now, the idea that women are different from men and that casual sex can be harmful to us is gaining traction. Well, look at yourself. How beneficial was it to you? Huh? Have it do it like a man. Remember? Liberation, right? I can do it too. Look at you. Cooked. In her latest book, A New Guide to Blank in the 21st Century, The Young Adaptation, Louis Perry explores how the revolution impacted women negatively and led to unwanted, or I would say unintended, consequences. She argues that casual sex, dating apps, and porn are the normalization of kinks and put women at risk. Although contraception has reduced the chances of pregnancy, she points to the risk of contracting disease or being a victim of in a culture where premarital sex is the norm. Well, you got that right. It sure the heck is.
I am a nasty woman.
She believes that society would benefit from returning to traditional values about the no pants dance. Of course it would. Don't get me wrong. I am not advocating to return to the 1950s when women were on the shelf by 30. Well, that still exists. And getting a suitable husband was their goal in life. But I wonder if by refusing to show any chinks in my intellectual armor, I'm the one who's losing out. Well, newsflash, lady, you've lost out at 63. Whilst I will never be a giggly man pleaser and have no intention of playing second fiddle to a man, the confidence signals I have been giving out all these years were at odds with what is going on inside. Okay, so now you're trying to stand on what you said, right? So you'll never be a giggly man pleaser, or you don't want to play second fiddle to a man. Well, you playing second fiddle to a man. See, this is stuff where I put myself first, so I'll never be second fiddle to a man. Well, being alone versus being second fiddle to a man, which would you rather have at this point at 63? I mean, look at the picture. Look at this woman. Look at her. How does she look? Huh? At 63. Trying to wear a miniskirt with a sweater, a turtleneck. I mean, look at you. You're 63. You're wrinkled up now. You're tall, probably like Pearly or somebody. I mean, you look weird now. You know what I mean? But yeah, I have learned to step back and let things go. And I have realized that things mustn't always veer towards the satisfaction of self. Captain Obvious. I am struck by how easy and peaceful it feels to let my dates or boyfriends take the lead. It's not a case of dumbing down or morphing into a Stepford woman, but simply dialing down a bit of me and letting them shine. FYI, my diaries are wide open. Go on, I dare you. I mean, at the end, you still stood on the women's first thing, because you're saying you're just dialing down yourself and letting them shine. Okay, so you're still letting them do things, right? That's the sentiment here. So it's peaceful now to let them take the lead, which that's their position anyway. But again, let me go back up top before I finish this up. Let's go back up top. 17. A pupil at the college, I assume, one of Britain's most academic institutions, I was introduced to the women's liberation movement. And at 17 right here, at 17 years old, this was the destruction of one Kate Mulvey. All right. So y'all see it. She's 63 and alone. No children, never married. Her longest relationship was 8 years with a whole stack of bodies in the closet in that, worn out vag that's probably wider than the Holland Tunnel shot of CGA. And and full of regret. Like I said again in the beginning, it warms my heart to no end. I laugh and giggle inside at her regret. And I hope that she continues with more. I hope she goes back and quadruples down on the women's first movement so she can have more misery until she's no longer has her addiction to oxygen. And with that being said, thank you for attending another episode of the Working Man Podcast. I am your host, Nicholas J. If you let me know what you think about this heartwarming story down in the comment section. And please hit the like button, hit subscribe button, and the notification bell to get out of the door. And now, man, wait a minute. Kate, you got to know this, all right? Because you're seeing it today. Reality checks are free. See you next time.